Hello, welcome to a video where we are going to cover the run of 23 EJB in the Bochum regional. This regional was played during the Hoenn tour, which is also why there were fewer players, not only during Bochum in Europe, but also during Knoxville in the States, in the United States. But nonetheless, the players who did attend were really good at the game, so it was not going to be an easy tournament. Let's take a look at the bracket that EJB started in. He started in Group D, which theoretically usually is the easiest group because that's where the remainders of tournament with like less than, let's say, 64 players or so are put in. And as you can see here, EJB actually started in round 2. He got a bye in the first round. So did his opponent, 3-3, who didn't show up. And then he won 2-0 against Bonanza Red. Now, his first battle was not streamed, but his second battle was. We're gonna go through these teams as the battles go because I want to keep the video around 40 minutes. EJB made a lot of stream appearances, so we're just gonna go through these. Some of these are a little bit more sped up because they are more RPS or polarizing than others as well. Let's take a look at these battles against his first opponent on stream, Chun. Chun is actually a player who plays a lot of my practice tournaments, and he plays with the Dena and Lorenz. He's actually also really good with them. As you can see here, this is the first RPS matchup, really. EJB leading Trevenant into Noctowl and then safe switching the Registeel, and is answered by the Medicham. Now Chun is somewhat of a moveset master here. He runs Dynamic Punch, not Psychic on Medicham, making this matchup way more solid because otherwise Registeel wins the zero shoots here. And this is somewhat basically impossible for EJB to overcome at this point just because he can't get alignment anyhow. Trevenant is useless. EJB realized that, no shoots everything. Just really difficult. Now, one tricky thing about running those spicy movesets on stream is that opponents can later anticipate to that, and that makes this Azumarill, for example, even better when you know it doesn't have Psychic against the Medicham. Lurantis is not even as hard of an answer to Azumarill, but 2 shoots are in play, and Lurantis outpaces a lot. It gets to Leaf Blades really fast, that hit very hard, so just not much what EJB can do here. He's gonna eat one Leaf Blade, at least one, before he can even swap out. And this Leaf Blade, it's like the best move in the game at 2 damage per energy. 35 energy only, so it comes out really fast, and EJB makes a really good play here, stalling the clock as much as possible, but it doesn't really matter because the Azumarill is so low that EJB basically can't get the 2 Ice Beams that he needs here, and even 2 Ice Beams might not do the trick because it does like 40% or so you still rely on a lot of bubbles. Not much EJB can do in this RPS matchup. The hard meta sometimes really is polarizing. Now, EJB is running a very hard meta, so that does happen. His most flexible Pokemon, Pokemon that I qualify myself in Stuttgart with, is Azumarill. And as you can see here, another really polarizing matchup. Now he has that Registeel into Umbreon, and as you can see, another tricky moveset here with the Psychic. I'm not sure how much use that has on Umbreon in Open Great League Show 6 at the moment. It helps against Nidoqueen and Toxicroak, I guess, but those aren't really around in the meta. It is as good as Last Resort, basically, but you are walled by other Umbreons, basically, so that makes it, in my opinion, a much worse option. But on the other hand, he can get a debuff. And since EJB did not get a debuff on that Zap Cannon, that now is only 67% instead of 100%, the Umbreon actually is able to flip that. And that's actually somewhat big for Chun. Now his Lorenz is not on that Noctowl. But on the other hand, EJB has 2 answers, so he lets that go. He doesn't really need switch advantage. Trevenant really is as good as well. And since Chun is not going to bring back that Lurantis into the Noctowl, EJB can safely assume that Noctowl will come back in and the Trevenant will still avoid it. So at this point, EJB is in a good spot here. Simply because Lurantis was probably the best lead he could have faced there. In fact, Noctowl is a little bit tricky to use against Chun because really it only answers the Medicham. Medicham is so-so, and the Lurantis. On the other hand, it's quite neutral against Noctowl and Umbreon as well. So that's 4 out of 6 that Noctowl has play against, and Noctowl is on every team. It is all over the place. Now, this somewhat becomes of a tricky position for EJB as well, because you don't want to give the opposing Noctowl farm, because then it might be able to get to a Sky attack on EJB's Noctowl. But he lets two Leaf Blades through, throws at the very end, gathering as much energy as possible, comes out with a C-Bomb, and that's perfect energy management from EJB. Could not have been better. So yeah, 1-1. And then the final matchup, we see the Dedenne come out from Chun here. This is actually, as stupid as this sounds, this is quite a positive matchup for Registeel just because it's way bulkier. Dedenne resists the charge moves from the Registeel, but it's they still add up way more because of the Dedenne's fragile nature. As you can see, 2 will take it out. The Zap kind of debuffs, and even though this Dedenne pace is really fast, EJB just decides to no-shoot there. I think as EJB, you can definitely always assume the Noctowl simply because EJB kind of has to bring the Trevenant, right? Because Noctowl, Umbreon, Azumarill, Medicham all are not great against the Dedenne. Even though Medicham can win with 2 shields up, the others struggle a little bit more. Yeah, he swaps into Medi immediately. As you can see here, he doesn't really fear it as much. This is double debuffed, and it still does a lot of damage. And out comes Noctowl. I guess EJB just can expect this anyway, but Medicham with so much energy is really good here. Now, if you expect to not get to another move here, Psychic is the way because it does a little bit more than 1 Ice Punch. And because of that, Chun is planning on farming down here rather than shielding. He barely gets knocked down there, and Noctowl has so much energy now that it can get to a Shadow Ball and a Sky Attack on the next Pokemon. Now, if you threw the Psychic, you actually would have had that KO. But that obviously is in hindsight, because if Noctowl throws their move before you, then you don't throw your move at all. So, really a little bit in perspective, but... Now, EJB is a shield up, but Umbreon is so bulky. This gets really close. But basically what EJB needs to rely on here is Chun's trying to catch a move and then farming down that Dedenne. So if you're trying to count on that, you never really want to farm too much energy as EJB here, because if Chun makes that mistake, you need to be able to farm up more energy. And he's already shaking his head. He knows that he needs too many moves here. Sky Attack still won't KO from this range. He needs 2 more at this point. And yeah, Umbreon just paces a little bit faster here. Yeah. So Chun does really need to swap. And again, Chun is a really good player. He had a lot of practice with these kind of Pokemon, so he definitely knows what he's doing there. There's no catch for EJB left, and Chun takes this matchup in actually only the second round that EJB played. He unfortunately already lost there, so that makes it difficult because it's double elimination. If you lose twice in a tournament, you're out. It's over. So let's take a look at the bracket right now. As you can see here, on top is the winner's bracket. Chun beat EJB there, and then he drops to the loser's bracket where he played 2-0 against Freezy Fire. That was not on stream. Then he played against Frika, also a really good player in from Germany, who I also played in Stuttgart and only barely won by a sliver of health. Now EJB is in the losers finals. The winner and the winner of the winners bracket and the winner of the losers bracket advance to day 2 of a Play Pokemon tournament. So if he wins this one, he goes to day 2, and that is against none other than his friend Super Alki on the left side here, who I believe also streams occasionally in German though, and he has double flyer and that Frostlass. Frostlass has really good coverage, but it doesn't appreciate this Umbreon really. Umbreon generally is quite good against Super Alki's team, so I'm very much not surprised to see it there. It just has a very good play all over the board, and then Azumarill from EJB. Again, I'm a big Azumarill fan lately, because if there's no Registeel or Trevenant, and that's actually more teams than you might think, it just has so much play. Azumarill's not the Pokemon to clean up whole teams, but it just takes matchups quite simply. Frostlass is one of them, Medicham is one of them, Noctowl is one of them, Altaria is a pretty hard win, Galarian Stunfisk, that's 5 out of 6 Pokemon that Azumarill wins quite consistently. Super Alki makes an incredible catch here on the foul play and is able to preserve his Frostlass, but EJB does have that Trevenant, and this is actually not good for Alki at all, even though he made such a good catch, because he wanted his Noctowl on that Trevenant. And that just makes it a little bit tricky because Super Alki really was never going to win Switch with a Frossus into an Umbreon lead unless EJB lets it go, and Super Alki probably has to go 2 shields down because he's already 1 shield down and Umbreon was almost able to fire off another foul play there, so it would have to go 2 shields down and to win the lead. But yeah, at this point, Noctowl comes in, takes these seed bombs easily because Noctowl is the hardest wall to that Trevenant. That's very fine for EJB because now he is 1 shield up. He has a very bulky Azumarill. That Medicham still, the Frosted still has a little bit of health left. I believe he's also had some energy. I'm not sure if we can get to that Shadow Ball. Yeah, Azumarill can still take these, and EJB is still not shielding because the wing attacks don't add up too much. Ice Beam coming in. I think this might barely not KO, but obviously as Super Alki, you have to shield this. Good timing by Super Alki, 4 wing attacks for 3 bubbles there, and then is able to get to this Avalanche. I think he could have reached the Shadow Ball. It doesn't matter anyway because EJB would shield regardless. It does the most damage. This Azumarill, I believe, still not in even Shadow Ball range, so EJB has this very comfortably. The Azumarill is just such a good core breaker because there's no Registeel, there's no Trevenant on Super Alki's side. 2 of the most common Azumarill. The 2 Pokemon that beat Azumarill. Here we see Azumarill again into Galarian Stunfisk, and again Super Alki is just not great against the Azumarill. He does not want to bring the Swampert. Probably expecting the Trevenant every game, but Swampert actually looks quite decent against EJB in my opinion. Has play against the Registeel, the Swampert, the Medicham is not the worst. The Azumarill is the one thing it actually is neutral against in right, where the others really aren't. Even though this Galarian stuff is not the worst, simply because the Azumarill doesn't have Hydro Pump. And this is kind of what EJB needs as well, because he needs to draw out that Medicham, otherwise it might run through his backline of Umbreon and Registeel. Both Umbreon and Registeel actually can win the Zero Shields against a Medicham not packing fighting charge moves. So even though they're weak to fighting, they aren't really, because the fighter is it's basically always Medicham. In Open Grading Show 6, it basically always is. Another foul play coming through. This 1 KO. It actually will bring it in last resort range. And it looks like EJB is going for that. Super Alki wants to keep Switch. He has to shield this. And he does. So he does come out with a lot of energy here, which is useful. I believe Azumarill no, it's definitely not in psychic range. This will chunk though. Let's see if he shields this up. Does not shield it up. Has a lot of faith in that Registeel, but gets a defense drop, which is kind of nasty, but doesn't really matter as much as you can take this out anyway. But you also cannot really bring your Registeel into this Galarian Stunfisk, so this is still a little bit tricky for EJB. Going to shield that up, and luckily Super Alki doesn't throw immediately, because otherwise I think EJB had to go 2 shields down. Going into that Registeel here, I think the Galarian Stunfisk easily gets to 2 Earthquakes, and EJB realized that the opponent basically has no reason to bait there. Trying to catch a move, and actually succeeds in catching the Focus Blast, which is a massive play from Super Alki. But on the other hand, it doesn't really work either, because EJB is going to need 2 moves anyway. Even if you get to Zap Cannon, I don't think you can lock on down exactly. So that makes this a tricky position for both players. EJB needing to manage the energy perfectly, and on the other hand, Super Alki needs to as well, right? Focus Blast coming through. He gets a lock on down. I believe the Galarian stuff is one much off, and EJB knows this and catches this Earthquake, which is insane. Now, on the other hand, honestly though, if he didn't catch that, I think he would have taken down this Galarian Stunfisk in 3 bubbles as well. So that was an impressive catch. I don't think it was exactly necessary, but it was a close matchup regardless. I think a really good play from Super Alki's side, because he just struggled with the Azumarill as well. Just not really much you can do. I believe they're locals as well, so it's pretty funny to face each other. But even your locals and your friends, you have to take them out if you want to get it. You want to win it all. So that makes Chun, the guy that EJB lost to. He's also Dutch, by the way. Could be the 4th Dutch person to qualify for Worlds. 1 Group D beating Super Alki in the winners finals, and then Super Alki dropped to losers finals, and there he got knocked out by EJB, which is very tough for Super Alki there. But it does mean that now EJB is qualified for day 2. So basically we had the battle stream from that EJB had on stream on Saturday. Now we're going to the battles on Sunday, where he plays against his good friend Arsenio, a really good French player. Also played him in Lille, and man, this guy is no joke. Really, one of the better European players you can face. Definitely a name you need to fear. And he also loves Altaria, a Pokemon that I hate. This is not as great for EJB. He's gonna stay in a little bit here, even though he has 2 better answers in the back. But it's very easy to get a shield here simply because you outpace with the Shadow Ball. And actually, no shooting here kind of hurts because you kind of want to take it out with an Ice Beam later. And Arsenio didn't really bring in a Registeel answer, but what he does here is so smart. Dragon Breathing this Registeel into Focus Blast range, or at least with lock-ons. And yeah, that puts him just in a way better spot. EJB needs that debuff, so he doesn't get knocked out by a Focus Blast, but unfortunately he doesn't get it. He does shield the Focus Blast. Arsenio's not fooling around with Zap Cannon's very smart play, because the Zap Cannon would not KO there, and EJB no shooting a potential Zap Cannon would only make this worse for Arsenio. Then again, no debuff. They're laughing. I bet Arsenio's laughing at him. And then letting this Focus Blast go. EJB probably hoping for a Zap Cannon, but it's not. Arsenio knows when to throw that move and when he should not. But one thing about Trevenant against teams without Noctowl, it's just really good against those teams, even though Arsenio is not exactly weak to it because he has Diggersby and the Altaria, which is actually more neutral than bad, but there's also Shadow Saber on Arsenio's side. So Trevenant, I honestly would use it as well as EJB, just because it doesn't get hard-walled. You can get shields from anything, basically. Playoff comes in. This is very much over. Not much that EJB can do against this Lantern. Lantern does also have a lot of play against EJB. Simply only fears that Trevenant, but it hard beats Noctowl and Azumarill, two very meta picks that people just love to use in Open Great League because they have such good matchups. They also get core broken by Registeel, so I don't think we'll see EJB using both of them. He actually makes a CMP swap here, which is crazy, but it doesn't matter for Arsenio because he farmed up 2 Sky attacks earlier on in the match, and that's going to win him this battle because he can farm down this Trevenant and then land Sky attack, maybe even a Moonblast. I mean, it doesn't really matter what he does. He just needs to tap a charge move and he wins this battle. So yeah, very tough match for EJB there. Very well played by Arsenio, which is no surprise really. Game number 2, we see the Azumarill into Registeel, and again, very tough for EJB. You're 1-0 behind already, and then you run into a bad lead, and then is answered by the Diggersby. Arsenio playing very weak to a Medicham lead, but would probably play out the 0 shoots against the Registeel. So yeah. This is also not a Mudshot Diggersby, by the way. This is a quick attack Diggersby. I think the reason for that, because I think I simulated this as well myself at some point, is that it actually can beat Noctowl and makes it really close at least. EJB actually barely outpacing to that Fire Punch because quick attack charges slower than the Mudshots. In comes Lantern, and this is actually not that great for EJB, but he knows what to do. Azumarill is useless against Registeel and Lantern. Like, Azumarill is good against Diggersby, Sableye, Altaria, Medicham from Arsenio, but EJB just never manages to get on there. But EJB also really knows that his Trevenant now is looking really, really good. It has a very good matchup against this Lantern. It has a very good matchup against the Registeel. Throwing a little bit on an unpredictable timing there, right after a charge move, then throwing the charge move immediately. Arsenio not being able to catch, because I think that's the one thing that Arsenio needs here. And look at this play from EJB. He's actually going to catch the Thunderbolt on Azumarill, knowing it's absolutely useless here. And he was hoping to catch a Surf for some reason, looking at his response. And look at this play from Arsenio, building up to the Thunderbolt against that Azumarill, knowing that those bubbles don't do anything compared to the Shadow Claws, so he has another charge move for later. Really, really good play from Arsenio. Once again, he's like making 0 mistakes almost. Going a little bit over 100 energy, but doesn't really matter. And this is the first time Arsenio makes a misplay, because he needed to come out with energy here. This Trevenant with 2 shields still is going to tear this team apart. Basically, what Arsenio needs is 2 Zap Cannons and then land that Thunderbolt. And that's more difficult now, because if you let the Azumarill throw a player, it's resisted. If you throw a Focus Plus on the Azumarill, you farm down with the Registeel lock-ons, you may have been in a better position here as Arsenio, and this is even more difficult because he tried to throw his move, but EJB threw the Shadow Ball exactly at the same moment, and now he kind of catches it, but it doesn't help Arsenio because he loses the Thunderbolt that needed to take the shield from EJB, and now EJB is just able to get to the Shadow Ball and tie the score up to 1-1. A really good battle from both players. The one slight mistake that Arsenio made in his perfect play. So very tough lead for EJB there, still came back from it. And here we see a very annoying mirror. But this is not where EJB hates it, because the Umbreon now avoids this, and it looks quite good in the back against the Shadow Sableye and somewhat against the Diggersby. I think Diggersby has a slightly favorable matchup just because of a harder hitting moveset. Tries to catch a potential Zap Cannon, but this time EJB went for the Focus Blast, where he actually was tapping for Zap Cannon at first. He lands that move there, then swaps into Umbreon, farm up to another Focus Blast first to make sure he has the one for Arsenio's Registeel after, and this is very fine for EJB. Although, now that I say that, there is still that Shadow Sableye in the back where you kind of want this Umbreon for, so I don't think Arsenio minds this as much either, but Umbreon is able to get a lot of energy here. At this point, you're already kind of in Focus Blast range as EJB. He goes for the Fire Punch, surprisingly. Pretty sure you get to the Earthquake. Regardless, I don't think they would have KO'd. And now Registeel still has to throw a full charge move here, which is annoying. And if EJ is making a heads-up play here, he might bring in that Trevenant here. But hey, Arsenio didn't bring the Shadow Sableye before, so he might not expect it. Shadow Sableye is pretty good against that Trevenant, especially with a shield up. The Shadow Claws really chunk. I can say so myself. I used it in Stuttgart. Sorry. Yeah, it was in Stuttgart as well. EJB actually going for a C-Pump here. And Arsenio decides to shield this. Now, this is somewhat of a surprising shield, simply because Registeel is going to get 2 moves here. But on the other hand, if you no-shoot that, I think Arsenio was afraid that the Trevenant that was slightly healthier than this Sableye might actually farm it down. So that's a little bit of a tricky choice for Arsenio here. The foul plays add up a lot. You need to shield this as EJB, but if Arsenio can swap out of this, it's basically game over. His timer's not up yet though, so EJB able to get to this next Zap Cannon, and at this point I think it's game over because Arsenio's Registeel does not have a lot of energy. And the Trevenant, as we can see on EJB's side, is not in Zap Cannon range. It needs to be at like 40% HP for Zapcan to take it out, and as we can see here, it's way too healthy. EJB can just go for a C-Bomb even and take out this Trevenant. So yeah, you see that one slight misser in game 2 actually cost Arsenio this matchup here. Was in a very comfortable lead, and man, it's sometimes so difficult, but that's just the top, right? If you play well, you need to keep playing well to win it all. That's just how it is sometimes. Looking at the bracket right now, looks like that the guy who got EJB's only loss, Chun, actually beat Benchteiler, a friend of EJB as well, by 2-0. Meaning that he's in the winners finals now against Lurgan Rocket, who beat Arceus Aurelius, who's also a friend of us, of EJ and EJB as well. The next matchup that EJB will be playing is actually against his French Benchteiler, who just lost to Chun. So let's take a look at how that battle's gonna go. As you can see, Benchteiler is on the left there, and these two are friends, but they're also running a very, very similar team with basically Galarian Stunfisk instead of Registeel on Benchteiler's side, and as well the Lantern instead of Azumarill. And yeah, EJB gets a really good lead here, a really good swap in. So this already looks very, I think I sped this one up a little bit because this one is very polarizing, very RPS, right? There's the Umbreon on the Trevenant. That's impossible to win for Trevenant. Azumarill against Galarian Stunfisk. This is probably the most neutral matchup in this whole battle. But again, Azumarill just dominates if it wants to. Let's see if EJ is going to shield. He is going to shield. Really wants to keep that alignment there. Then going to farm this all the way down. This is only a rock slide. I think EJB knows that. So there's only slight chip damage, allowing the Trevenant to farm down this Azumarill easier. They're actually going into the Lantern. EJB expected Trevenant to come in. And this is actually ideal for EJB because Bench Styler had his one Pokemon weak to Azumarill sandwiched between two hard counts to it. And since he didn't really get the alignment, this makes it just way easier for EJB at this point, especially when you get your Trevenant on the Lantern and then the Umbreon back on the Trevenant. So just not much that Bench Styler can do here. Yeah, you shoot here, but there's just not much you can do. Even if you catch, not much that Bench Styler can do. This is exactly the problem of hard meta and Open Grey League at the moment. Matchups like Umbreon against Trevenant or Noctowl against Trevenant, Trevenant against Lantern, they're just impossible to overcome. That makes it a little bit annoying. Which is why I also encourage to like not use hard meta, because it makes it a little bit more unpredictable, right? I like stuff like Shadow Charizard, Dunsparce. I found them a little bit better, but it looks like EJB loses his Umbreon there, but there's still a full Trevenant. See how game 2 goes here. We see this time a better lead for Bench Styler. Yeah, this one is not as sped up. We see here that EJB is going to throw a move first before swapping out potentially. The Ice Punch does nice damage, but it actually gets shielded here. And at this point, he's trying to catch a move on the Umbreon. Actually successfully does so. Now this actually this helps a lot, right? Because you need to... you don't really need to bait it out, the potential Medicham, but this does help EJB to preserve energy on Medicham. So that's nice for him. On top of that, I think he was trying to catch a Shadow Ball, which would have been even better, because Shadow Ball does a little bit more than the Sky Attack. Last Resort coming in here. This is kind of a boring matchup, unfortunately, but yeah, we're gonna have to sit this out. Bench Styler is being very careful with energy, and I really like that play, because EJB farms or swaps out at some point, you have some moves to throw. But yeah, EJB is just going to stay in and farm it down later. And that's actually really good for EJB, because Noctowl has less energy. So, right, because EJB caught a Sky Attack. So he can farm another Ice Punch off the Umbreon. Actually, he won't get a lot of farm at this point. See if Bench Styler shields you. He does not. But I think he gets the farm down barely. Oh, but he tries to snipe the Umbreon with the Medicham. Very good attempt from EJB. I guess he just wanted to farm down and then get to some Ice Punches. But again, this is not a worse matchup or the worst position for him to be in. Now Bench Styler did put himself in a difficult position. And this time EJB does throw that Psychic instead of one Ice Punch. I really like that play. And the reason why this puts Bench Styler in such a difficult position, again, he has one Pokemon weak to Medicham. It was sandwiched between two Pokemon that hard counter it. But he doesn't really get the alignment as well as he wants, because EJB stayed in with that Medicham against the Noctowl. And that allows EJB to win this matchup quite comfortably, because the Trevenant now is aligned against his Noctowl. And this is just unwinnable at this point for Bench Styler. If he brought in the Trevenant against the Medicham, it would have been more comfortable, but he probably didn't, because the Ice Punch does more there instead than on the Noctowl. Maybe he expected the Noctowl counter in the back, such as a Registeel. So that's a 2-0 win. Another 2-0 win for EJB, which means he advances even further in the bracket. We're going to take a look at the interview.
The losers finals now. How do you feel?
I'm feeling great. Like, it's a big accomplishment for me. It's actually the first time I ever made day 2, and I'm in losers finals now, so I'm actually top 4, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm feeling good. Feeling good about it.
I mean, you have beaten your friend before, and now you have also beaten Bench Styler, so two very strong players in this competition.
Yes. Yeah. I also beat Super Alki yesterday, my local Austria, right? So like, I had a pretty friendly bracket, like with all of my friends facing them, and yeah, it hurts beating them, but one of us has to be victorious, and this time it was me.
But by now you can call yourself the best player of your friend group. How's that like? Is that even better than winning a regional possibly?
That's not true, because Logan Rocket is still in the winners. So I'm gonna have to beat him as well if I wanna be called that, and that's what I'm aiming for today.
So do you think you have a good chance? I mean, he plays a kind of difficult team. He also is running the Diggersby. And what do you think are your chances if you face him?
I think it will be quite even. He has the Diggersby, I have the Azu, so I think I have the upper hand on this one. He has the Mantine, I have the Noctowl, so I think if we face, this will be a really, really interesting game.
I also think that would be quite the match. I'm excited to see that. So your last match against Bench Styler, what was your thought on the matchup when you entered the game?
It looked what we call rock, paper, scissors. It's like it can go either way. The matchup was okay. So I knew I had a lot of play. Also, so he had a lot of play, and we just rolled the dice, and I was the lucky one.
So do you think in the last game, in game 2, because you won 2-0, which is also quite the accomplishment, how happy were you when you saw that your Noctowl was aligned against the Trevenant?
Yeah, I was expecting a Lantern in the back. Because
really?
I was expecting Lantern. I thought maybe I have a chance with Shield Advantage Noctowl. It's good, so I might have a chance. And I brought in the Noctowl, and he said, GG's. And I was like, what do you have in the back? He was like, you will see. And then he brought in the Trev, and I was like, oh man, I feel so bad.
Yeah, I could see that on the screen. He was already going,
Yeah, he was like, he let the phone down. I don't even know if he was tapping. He shielded, then he was like, I'm so sorry, I just shielded. I'm like, we just played out, it's fine. But yeah, I felt good. I won. I knew I would win no matter what then, and that was my goal, top 4.
Obviously, if you have the Noctowl against the Trevenant in both of the last Pokemon, then nothing can happen to you
Exactly,
anymore.
yeah.
You just need to tap.
Exactly, yeah.
At this point, it's just tapping. So, did you have any banter, any mind games with him during the game?
With him, no. No, obviously with Asane, I had a lot of talk during the game, but with him, no. We just had casual talk, just GG's after game, good game after game 1. Like good luck before the games, no talking, no interaction. I don't wanna disturb him in his thought process or anything. So I can do this with friends, with what I call good friends like Asenia. I talked. You probably, if you would have heard that, you would be disappointed. So it was a good fun and a good joke, and we talked all evening yesterday. We talked each other like that, and it was a good fun. But
I think that is actually fair play with your friends. If you're both on the same level of nervousness, then you can have a little bit of fun.
If a friend doesn't trash talk me on stream, it's not a friend. So it's as easy as it is.
That is actually a fair point. So, EJB, I'm going to give you a few more minutes to breathe through, prepare yourself for the losers finals, and we are going to give it back over to the casters.
Thank you.
All right.
Ah, yes, the casters. That's in this video. That's me. It's actually what I say as well. Like EJB, if you're not trash talking your friends or BMing them on stream, are you really friends? Also, yeah, great interview by Leonard. Actually, I gave him the Denapin as well after we casted Liverpool together. Yeah, I hope I get to cast with him as well. Really great guy. Wasn't really into Pokemon Go as much at the start, but as he gradually got more into it, he likes it a lot now. He actually wanted to battle me the whole time in Liverpool, so they really see his dedication in it. Either way, let's take a look at the bracket right now. As you can see here now, Lurgan beat Arceus Aurelius, but Arceus Aurelius beat Talonflame after that, so that will be EJB's next opponent, and Lurgan Rocket beat Chun in the winners finals, meaning that now Lurgan secured his spot to Worlds, right? He's top 2 qualifies for World Championships, and number 1 wins the Travel Award, which is basically like a cash packet, a cash pack. Sorry, I went a little bit Dutch there. Anyway, yeah, Arceus Aurelius, really great guy. He's like your favorite uncle, your girlfriend's crush, a Sylph analyst. Oh, he has it all. Let's take a look at these battles here. Really excited for that one. Actually, I played the home tour mostly, but I did watch this set as well. Let's take a look here. I really like those small videos that they have for the top 4 on these European regionals. Even though sometimes they're cringe, but they're just funny to see as well. Some spotlight to the players there, right? So here we see Trout into Galarian Stunfisk, and this is a nice matchup for EJB because he can secure that his Registry won't be on this. But EJB is also in a little bit of a tricky spot here because his team is double weak to Medicham in the back, so he kind of needs to bait that out. And if you shield the first Shadow Ball as the Galarian Stunfisk, which Arceus does here, and this is not the worst because you will get to those 2 Rock Slides here. And Arceus Aurelius is going for a great player because Earthquake will actually take it out with all these mud shots, and EJB just as smart knows this. Look at Arceus, he's just nodding like, yeah, smart player, actual smart opponent. Shadow Ball comes through, but it doesn't kill. As you can see here, the Galarian Stunfisk still gets to that move before Trout gets to a C-Bomb, and this is perfect for EJB. Catching that Rock Slide here, now baiting out this Medicham, which is exactly what he needs. It's also great for Arceus Aurelius because now his Noctowl avoids this Registeel. And yeah, since they pace at the same time, but EJB doesn't want to risk giving another counter away. He doesn't throw it just yet. He actually gets the debuff this time, so that's great for him. And he would actually be able to get to another charge move there if Arceus Aurelius didn't throw, which is really good recognition by him as well, throwing that Ice Punch real quick. Now, actually, he's kind of lacking in energy a little bit because he's not able to get to the Ice Punch to threaten this Trevenant. Yes, yeah, now EJB throws there first. And there's knocked on the back, so we can basically say that Trevenant it's done what it needed to do, is basically uses now. And at this point, it looks tricky for EJB because this is not that great of a matchup for Umbreon in the one shields. On the other hand, though, if Arceus Aurelius tries to catch a move and it fails, he might be able to farm a lot of energy. Really good timing by both players. And again, if you are hoping for your opponent to make that mistake, you basically don't want to throw to have a lot of energy already, because you can see here now EGB already was at 100 energy, which is not ideal, but at least he didn't throw his energy into the Galarian Stunfisk, so that's optimal for him. Basically, you want to be a little bit of low energy, right? Because if you get more farm in the Galarian Stunfisk, that's better. Try to go for the last resort here. Arceus Aurelius is not at the next Sky Attack just yet. I believe he is. Is he one off? I'm not sure. Last resort might almost take it out here. He's very panicking here, and then Shadow Claws down the Noctowl. You don't see it every day. Very well played from both players there. That Rock Slide catch was just really needed for EGB. Just the perfect time, right? Because Arceus Aurelius was so low health that he had to throw, basically. And here we a surprising play from EJB, staying in a little bit, but also probably confusing Arceus Aurelius, because this might mean for him that he needs to preserve it. Maybe now Arceus Aurelius thinks that there's a Registeel in the back. Swapping in this Azumarill here, and I do like this play from EJB as well, because he needs to bait out a potential Trevenant with the Azumarill, but in the back is a Walrein. There's no Trevenant. There is Walrein and Noctowl. So yeah, at this point, I think the Medicham looks somewhat fine for EJB, but it looks very neutral. Walrein's Earthquake barely doesn't take it out here. This player does add up, but does not KO yet. And you see what most players do at this level is they keep their shields for the very end. And look at that good energy management from Arceus Aurelius. I'm not sure if he will be able to get to another move, though. Not if the Medicham comes in, but this would also be a big farm down for an Umbreon. Looks like EJB decides to go for the Medicham farm down instead, allowing him to get a slight energy advantage in case there's a Noctowl on the back. So I really like that play. He already was sure there was no Trevenant in the back because the Azumarill wasn't hard answered by it. But Azumarill Safe Switch is also a little bit difficult, because if there's a Lantern in the back, it's also a risky play from EJB there. I guess this time it works, so that's nice for him. There we see the screen on the right side go down, so let's just focus on the left one. Ice Punch comes through again. This just shows Medicham's flexibility, really. And I like these shields from Arceus Aurelius simply because he knows that these are the charge moves that do the most damage to this Noctowl. That Umbreon just doesn't have much damage output. EJB planning on letting that Medicham go, probably, so going for the Psychic. I'm not sure if it was entirely necessary, and Ice Punch may have put this into foul play range as well. But yeah, I mean, those are just the plays you make on such high level, right? It's not like calling them out for mistakes or something. The game just goes really quick, and it's just things you could consider doing different. Because what you're going to see now is that EJB wants the farm down on this, right? He's not going to throw the move because he wants the farm down on the Medicham. He gets that counter in. Now he needs to get to a move against the Noctowl. So if he threw the Ice Punch earlier, you also would have had more energy here. But looks like, well, we don't see it on the right side, but Arceus Aurelius did have the move there. EGB gets to the Ice Punch, and that wins him this battle. That actually puts him in the finals for the next video, which will be again against Chun in the losers finals, a best out of 5, and then against Lurgan Rocket, his friend, his faction teammate. So you should look, if you didn't see that, you should definitely check that out in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the video so far.